The other thing that was interesting is both leaders absolutely demonised Hamas, saying Hamas is ISIS. Benjamin Netanyahu said that Hamas were barbarians, the enemy of civilization, and Antony Blinken agreed, saying that anyone who's committed to peace and justice must condemn Hamas. The other thing, Caleb, that was interesting from that press conference is Benjamin Netanyahu warning Israelis and the world that hard days are ahead. But he said the thing that will get us through is we have moral clarity, which then was contrasted with what Antony Blinken said about Hamas, calling them nihilists and enemies of civilization.
And the worst of ISIS was what Blinken said, of course. And that humanity and that moral clarity is what we've seen in this offer from Israel. You give up our hostages, or your hostages, our people, and we'll give you the power back. Now, it's a very simple offer to make. It's the number one complaint, of course, that Hamas has had about the way Israel has treated them since all of this kicked off. If they cared about their people, as Blinken and Netanyahu have pointed out they don't, they would take that offer. The ball is very firmly in their court now. And it was important to hear the words of Blinken there, as you said, that Israel may be able to fight this war on its own, but for as long as the US exists, it will never have to. And I think they are words that we ought to see echoed by Anthony Albanese and leaders in this country tomorrow, because we owe the same sort of assistance and help to Israel as the US does. Because Israel, we mustn't forget, is the only democracy in the Middle East. Yeah. And not only being in the Middle East, it is by rights one of the most liberal nations in the world in terms of its social policy. And so if you were to lose that in the Middle East, the West would lose not only a massive ally, but a foothold in terms of controlling that militant Islamism in the Middle East. You lose Israel, you find yourself in a much bigger world of trouble worldwide.
Yeah. And Liz, America promising missiles to reinforce Iron Dome. They've got carriers off the coast and a warning that any of Israel's enemies who think they might take advantage of Israel's weakened position, I think Antony Blinken used one word, he simply said, don't.
I have absolutely no time for Antony Blinken. We must remember this is the guy who just not even 2 weeks ago gave Iran $6 billion. And when he was asked, aren't you concerned about how this money might be used? He replied saying, look, I know Iran always uses its money for terrorist organisations. Iran is the godfather of terrorism and everybody knows it. It is doing everything it can to gather the Arab nations together to ensure Saudi Arabia doesn't sign off on the Abraham Accords. It knows exactly what it's doing. And I simply do not have a second of time for Blinken here, because he knew what he was doing at the time, putting money in the pockets of these people who we can watch the footage of the Iranian president literally sitting in his chamber of parliament on Monday, basically saying, I'm paraphrasing, but it was crystal clear, well done, team, good job, what a great day. We know that Iran is most definitely involved here, and the Democratic Party is actually in a real bind here, because for years it has supported, many of the Democrats have supported movements like Black Lives Matter. Who's Black Lives Matter now supporting? Yeah. Free Palestine, go the resistance, etc., and so on. They have been this safe haven of left-wing backing for this kind of movement. And now that this has happened, Blinken has to get up and say that. Do I believe him? I can't say that I do, because we know many in the Democratic Party, just like us here in Australia, keep bashing Labor for not having done enough, for not having said enough. I mean, and the Greens don't even get us started. They are outright supporting and promoting these terrorist sympathiser rallies, etc. They are the exact mirror image of the Dems in the States, is our Labor Party here. So whether it's Minns doing nothing in the face of these militants screaming "gas the Jews," it's exactly the same. It's
so just
what
on
we
that,
see in Democratic-run states, and it's what we're seeing here.